Alright, BobalosRex here, and this video is going to be about Classic Plus / Season of Discovery 2, or Phase 9, 10, 11, 12. This is me talking about 10 things, and there's going to be stuff in the 10 things that they should do to a Classic Plus or Season of Discovery 2 to change the game, in my opinion, for the better. Now, where am I coming from, right? I'm a main retail player. I played the game since vanilla. And I'm trying to look at this through an angle of this is supposed to be classic feel, but new stuff with improvements, right? It's modern classic. We've already seen classic changed. You know, we had the no changes classic and people want to changes. We've seen season discovery pop up. You know, I'm not going to talk about it much, but I'll talk about it here. You see all the private servers that add the stuff to classic. People want additions to classic. Okay? So we're starting from that point. We're going to be changing up classic. And I'm also looking at this. So we know Season of Discovery is like a test. Okay? So I'm also trying to look at what lessons did they learn from Season of Discovery about what players want to see. Okay? We're going into Phase 8. You know, we got all this stuff. They have seen what players like. And, you know, with all the hype around it, and I do think there's hype around the new SoD phase because it is actual new vanilla content, that we're going to talk about it today. So, let's get into it. My 10 things they need to change up in Classic Plus / SoD 2. Okay. So let's start with number 1. And I've been talking about it right here. Questing. People in Classic WoW, people who like Classic WoW, want to quest. Okay? How good is questing in Classic? But they want to quest. I feel like they want to quest. They want to do dungeons. They want to group up. But that's going to be later. They want to quest. So I've said this in my lore rant. If we get Classic Plus, they have to revamp questing and leveling. Okay? If they do a Classic Plus or a SoD 2, they shouldn't have to have a buff up here to fix the game, right? The XP that you earn, they should just have it fixed in to be better, right? Or have more quests or award more gold. They shouldn't have to have a buff to do that, all right? Remember, this was added in to fix a problem, okay? So I do think they need to expand questing. All the good, cool stuff from SoD have been those extra quest lines. You know, you have the quest line to get the sleeping bag. And the sleeping bag, that's something, you know, people wanted to get the bonus XP. We'll talk about the sleeping bag in a quest in a little bit too. But fixing questing and leveling in Classic is something they need to do for the next phase. Alright, Classic isn't about endgame. It is about the leveling. They don't need to make it too short, but it needs to... They already realize it needs to be shorter than it is. But I think the main issue is you don't need these dead levels of no quests, alright? I've heard, I haven't done, they have daily hubs for dailies in Searing Gorge. Leveling up daily areas? Think about that. Imagine in a Classic Plus or Season of Discovery 2, one of the things that's discovered, like this would be something that would be great for them not to talk about. You know, because you'd want to talk about main things at least a little bit. But say Horde do their leveling, we're in the Barrens. Maybe there's a Crossroads faction in daily quests. Crossroads has daily quests that you can do to help level. You know, or weeklies, right? I think they maybe something, right? Something. I think that would be cool. Maybe a rep. You know, I do think I'm not going to really talk about reps in this because I've kind of, but reps should be something new. Reps should be something that's added. We've seen new reps added in SoD. We see which ones work. You know, the rep that people kind of cared about, the Emerald Wardens, the Dream events have some issues. Yes. A rep I hated was the Duratar Supply and Logistics. This rep had some cool stuff, but I don't like how you get it, in my opinion. It didn't feel as good. But I think that's something. So questing, you know, reps, some stuff like that, they need to look into leveling. All right, that's number one. Now, number two. Let's talk about the UI. We all know, and if you've watched any streamer in classic hardcore, in classic whatever, SoD, they all got add-ons. They got add-ons all over their screen. They're customizing their UI and all that good stuff. Why can't I have the modern UI customization? If people are using add-ons to change their interface in classic, why can't I opt in to change my UI like in modern? No, in my opinion, there's no reason. You can have someone click on it, there should be an option, classic mode, no changes, UI, boom. Or modern UI, and I can just move this around. I would love to be able to have this look like classic, but I just be able to move stuff around, like in modern, okay? Something, right? While we're on the UI. In Classic Plus, looking for group, in SoD, it's up here. In retail, it's down here. Okay? For me, who likes to play all the different WoWs, I would like the option, again, people can have the option to make it classic mode. Maybe they don't touch retail, and they just want to keep it like this. That's fine. I'm a retail. I want to be able to switch this to down here, world map to up there, and just my life be a million times easier. My calendar right there. Just put everything where it is in retail. Okay? You know, I'm already switching between a ton of classes, a ton of specs, and if I want to play alts in classic, let me just have every of the buttons that do the same thing, have them be in the same area. Again, we already see people with add-ons do it. The modern game can. Why not the option? Item level. People have add-ons that show item level. Just put it in the game. Just put it back in the game. You have it in the game. Just put the item level in the game. Item level isn't a good determining of what's good, but people use the add-on to judge other players. If you are a player that doesn't have that add-on, you are at a disadvantage. Okay? You don't know the item level of your gear. You may have high item level gear that you could put on, but you don't know. So, I think item level on gear should be a thing in a Classic Plus, SoD 2, or whatnot. Alright? The one bag option. We see Modern has that option, right? Here, let's type in bag. Modern has that option. We have the show free bag space option. I see tons of people do the add-on. Just put it in the game. Just put it in the game, like in retail. Like, what? Why does someone wants to go to Classic and the bags bother them and they just want to play it as retail? Why can't they just make it big? People use add-ons to do it. Again, people are already using add-ons to do it. It's just a quality of life feature. It won't hurt anybody to be able to make this one. I like using bags like this. I use it this way in retail. But what I'm saying is, why can't someone just do the one bag option in Classic? If they want to. People already do it with add-ons. We're talking about quests. We were talking about quests, right? What add-on do I see a ton of people using? People use... Well, one, they're using like Questy, I think it's called. But I see tons of people use this Rested EXP guy too. Like, people want modern questing quality of life in Classic, they get the add-ons to do it. You can let people have the classic questing experience, or you can have them opt in to have quest markers on the minimap, to have quests track correctly. Like, why can't I look on my map, like in Modern, and just be like, okay, so I got quests over here, I gotta go over here. Like, come on. It's just a quality of life. Nice feature to be like, yo, I got quests in this area, I didn't even know. Like, in the Modern game, right? I don't think this would hurt Classic. I didn't want to go this far. I just wanted modern day quest tracking, you know, to do the stuff the add-ons do. But literally, what would be bad about me as a Classic player knowing that there's quests up here? I've never been there. Say the quests, say they do the full Modern kind of quest thing. So there, I got quests up there. I don't know what those are. What's wrong? Oh, I got a quest over here. Oh, there's a random quest over here. Doesn't that help me explore the world more? Maybe I've never been up here and I don't care. I would never go up here, right? If I see a quest way off in the distance, maybe there's a quest I missed, right? So you got some of those cool, rare, hidden quests. But say that's randomly out here and I'm like, huh, I'm in this zone. What's this quest way out here? I go way out here to go get the quest or something. That, like, what's wrong with me knowing about it ahead of time? I don't think that robs from the Classic experience. Okay? So I do think they should have modern day minimap quest tracker, modern day quest tracker. People already have add-ons that do it. Make it an option. You can have Classic quests or modern. I do not see the harm. We already see people, like, anything that's an add-on that people do in the game, I think they should just put in the modern equivalency as an option. Alright. Modern auction house, right? We see people using TSM, using Auctionator. Okay? They can do that, right? They're fine with doing that. Okay? There's a lot more players. I think there's a lot more normies who use modern auction house, okay, and that would use the auction house in Classic if it just this server is dead. But they would use the modern auction house is just nice, right? And I do wonder if the Classic auction house does have all that. I can't check it here. Have that profession materials for like 1 gold that we used to have. Just give us the modern auction house, okay? That's a UI feature for me. I also put modern mob tagging. That's hit or miss for me, but it is such a fucking pain in the ass in Classic. You can maybe have the 5 tap on the normal mobs, but for the, like, quest mobs, you have lines in Classic of players just to kill a mob, right? It's fun story. Is that good gameplay? What's wrong with a bunch of people being able to tag that mob and leave, right? Instead of just a group, just anyone who was able to get like a touch, because that mob died quick, if y'all remember what I'm talking about. But modern mob tagging for quests, I think would go a long way. Something to consider. You may disagree. Cast bars. I see people, I'm gonna say it straight up. Zaryu, I saw him in Peekaboo doing that Karazhan. They have the cast bars pop up. And I was like, anyone who's playing Classic, if you play it no add-ons, you have to watch the mob. He is PvPing, right? Him having that cast bar add-on puts him at an advantage to anyone who's just playing legit. They should... I'm not against add-ons, but I do think you should have the option to turn on enemy cast bars in Classic. If people are using add-ons to do it, you are at a disadvantage if you don't. Because you have to stare at the mob and be like, what are you casting? They just have an add-on that does it. So I think enemy cast bars should be displayed. And you should have that option to turn on. And if everyone, like, maybe it should automatically be on. Because, like I said, it's a disadvantage. Like, in PvP, you are at a disadvantage if you can't see what your enemy's casting. And you have to just guess based on the hand motions. You know, you can. A true classic game, you'd be like, I know what spell that is. But, dude. That's pretty much all the stuff I want to talk about for UI. Though it's kind of a part of it. Dungeon Journal. People use Atlas Loot. I loved Atlas Loot. I used it back in the day. Maybe you do a dungeon journal that's just loot. Doesn't tell you what the mobs are. Maybe it shows you the boss. Maybe it gives you a mystery boss, right? Maybe it doesn't show you all the bosses. The classic dungeon journal, I would want to look way different than the modern one. But if it had the loot, I think would be great, because I think a ton of people use Atlas Loot. All right. Also, maybe modern day loot role priority. Maybe have the built-in main spec, off spec built into the roles. You know, it would pull back on ninja looting unless people like ninja looting in classic. You know, it does add to the drama, so it's just a thought there. Okay, so that's all the UI stuff. Okay, so I talked about questing, I talked about UI. I think that would do a lot to fix up. Now let's talk about professions. I think classic professions are already kind of good. I think SoD did them alright. You know, putting in the new recipes, the items, and all that stuff. But we do see these issues that come about with herbs and materials, right? Mostly herbs. I think there's also the skin mafias and Unguro I've heard about. You may have heard stories about. So one thing I would do for classic professions, you know, flesh them out like in Season of Discovery. Try to fill in some gaps for some areas. Give us some new cool stuff. You know, each phase adding in some new recipes. You know, maybe try embellishments from Modern WoW as a thing. But I'm not saying that, but because I think classic professions are in a good spot. But one thing I do think they need to do is mining, herbing, and leatherworking. Not leatherworking, and skinning need to switch to the modern model. Mining nodes need to be one tap. One tap, right? Not this fail. No. It hits. Maybe have the fail option, but they're a one tap either way, right? Have them last a little bit. So if two people run to the node, I don't have to fist fight this person. We both just mine it. And then there's more materials. Okay? You are going to get the bots of groups that do that. Yes. But retail is fine with that. Material costs are fine. It actually helps keep prices pretty steady to have the farmers there for a little bit, especially for some ore, you know? And I think mining, herbing, same thing with leatherworking. Leatherworking, multiple people can skin if they tag the mob. So if multiple people tag that devil sword, all of them can skin that devil sword. Okay? So you wouldn't have the mafia, as long as the one person touched the devil sword, they could skin the devil sword too. So, because you don't even have to have, if you didn't get loot for the skin mob, but you still touched it, I'm pretty sure you can still skin it in Modern. Also, I want to put EXP on mining and herb nodes. I love leveling, mining, and herbing. Why can't I do it in Classic? I think there would be some Classic players that would love to just level doing that. Also, it gives more XP to help that leveling curve. There you go. Alright. Next up. Classes revamped. So, I'm a tank shaman, right? I'm not saying give shaman a 4th spec, but I really like the new combos that they added to Classic, especially the tanks, because tanks were kind of lacking in Classic. And I do think mage as a healer, a little weird. And I do think they should flesh it out a little bit more, but that's it. I think they need to flesh out in the talent trees these new roles. We see Druid have a tank role built into Feral. So one of these talent trees can do like a split tank slash DPS role. So let's do it for Shaman. You know, you already kind of have this hybrid build for Shaman. I do kind of like that. But I would love to keep these interesting combos like Tank Shaman, like Tank Rogue, Tank Warlock. Unless, we'll talk about that next, we start adding stuff. But I do think that the extra roles that they added in SoD were really cool. I love being a Tank Shaman. And I don't know if they'll use runes in the next way. I think it'd be better for them to look at doing something with the talent trees. You know, when they revamp the classes. Because I do think I want to see a classic class revamp. But done in a way that's like classic, right? They can do it, a talent tree like this, and just fix up some of the stuff. Maybe take some stuff they learned from modern talent trees, not copy it. I don't want them to copy modern talent trees. It still has to be these. But adjust and make these actually cool. Like, sometimes people don't want to get the capstone. I feel like any of these that people don't end up wanting to get, or at least somewhat interested in, especially if this is your main role, they need to look into, in my opinion, and maybe bump them up. Alright, I'm not a big classic Andy, but I do think that the class revamps and stuff they did in SoD, especially with all the runes and all the stuff, where are they going to put these? I think a way to integrate these is into the talent trees. You know? Because here's the thing, right? I'm putting 5 points into this. One thing that Classic did wrong and why we switched to the modern one and came back to talent trees, because talent trees are cool, but I'm putting 5 points for 5%. How about I put 3 points for 5% and there's cool other stuff around the side that I can get? Okay? I think there's some stuff we learned in retail and then we bring back here to make these better. Okay? And take some of the runes that we liked. Okay? And then keep the cool rolls. Okay? One thing I wanted to talk about here. Tanks. Don't need a mana issue. Tanks don't need a mana issue. Okay? If I'm a tank and I'm a warrior, I don't give a fuck. If I'm a druid, I don't give a fuck. If I'm a shaman, I'm sitting here looking, oh shit, I need mana. Paladin, or at least early on, right? I think they fixed that issue in a lot of the SoD tanks. But tanks don't need a mana issue. So if I'm a tank roll on one of these specs that use mana, it needs to instantly be solved. Okay? Threat is a tank problem. Threat is a tank problem. That is the problem tanks need to solve. DPS don't need a mana issue. I know mana issues in Classic are inherent to a lot of mana DPS. Even rogues run out of energy. I think they should adjust some of that. Because people like to click buttons. And I think a lot of the fun stuff in SoD comes from the roles that can just click buttons. And I think SoD allows people to click buttons. Clicking your spells in WoW is fun. Not clicking them isn't. So I don't think DPS should have to worry about the mana issue unless it's kind of like a... Maybe mages, maybe warlocks. Hunters shouldn't. Shaman shouldn't. DPS, enhanced shaman should. And I think SoD may fix some of that issues. Like I said, I haven't been in-game SoD. I feel like a lot of in-game stuff fixes that issues. But even leveling up, it's just so annoying when you can't click your buttons. Healers, though, healers need the mana issue. Healers and mana, that is the gameplay. Mana management and keeping people alive. So, mana issues should keep for healers. Alright? Buff timers need to be fixed. Paladin buff timers are ass. Modern day buff timers. Come on. 1 hour. 1 hour. Having to rebuff... I think they made it better in SoD. I think it's like 30 minutes in SoD. But dude, 5-minute Paladin buff. It's so annoying. Yo, why do I gotta maintain this for 10 minutes? I mean, it's already 3 charges. But really? It can't just be unlimited for... Like, what the... Or just like how modern works, like you just put the shield on. I'm a shaman. I maintain my shield. I don't have to keep clicking this button. I mean, shaman is about maintaining buffs, but I think they should look into some of that. Modern day buff timers, at least for the paladin buffs, the blessings. Oh my god. Or the longer buffs, the 5-minute ones. Oh my god. Okay, next up, I'm gonna log out for this. I've already talked about it. I think they want to look into expanding some classes. Alright, I do think they need to expand some classes. Undead Paladins, we should get them in retail and classic. Alright. I can't make alliance because the server's all alliance, as you could see when I was in the game. But I do think I want to see some new class stuff added. Some new class combos. And honestly, I'm thinking, we've all been thinking, are we going to get the DK unlocked? Are we going to get Death Knights unlocked? I think that would be cool. You know, Death Knights could fill that tank role. You know, do you bring in the Wrath talents? How do you weave those in? You pull some back? Well, if we're going to get DK, they got to revamp them. And I would love to have it be a cool unlock. You know, you get to level 60, you're doing some endgame stuff, and you gotta do a lot of stuff. You're talking to some evil paladins, you're doing some evil stuff, and then you die. That character dies. Maybe you gotta sacrifice a character for it. For the unlock on your account. You gotta sacrifice a character. But then you get a level 60 Death Knight. Like it's auto 60. But any new one you gotta level. Oh my god, that would be sick. So yeah, you do a quest, and the dude's like, alright, you ready for this? And you gotta like, I agree. And then it kills you. And then on your thing it says, remake as a Death Knight. Oh! And then on your account you can make more Death Knights. At that point, you can just make them. Alright? But like the first one is that special one. And you gotta sacrifice a character. How crazy would it be? Like... Oh man, I don't think Blizzard could do it like that, because you'd have to you'd level up a character that you plan on sacrificing, but the first person to do it, if you didn't know, like, what am I agreeing to? And it pop up, you will lose this character as you are. This character will permanently change after this choice. Do you agree? And you're just like, what? Once you do this, you can no longer play this character as it is. Are you sure about this? And you gotta type in yes, and then you... Arise, Death Knight. Oh my god, it'd be crazy. And it could work for, like, any class. You just do the quest line, and it's like, alright, are you ready to arise? I think stuff like that would be cool. Demon Hunter. There's... 2 classes. Well, you could do monks, but Demon Hunter would be so sick, and then you wouldn't have to have the Warlock tank. You know, we could still have the Warlock tank, but getting Demon Hunter early, like, maybe you have to be a Warlock to get Demon Hunter. Maybe this one is added later, and you have to be a Warlock. And maybe it's... oh my goodness. So you have to be a Warlock. You do a quest line over here around the Dark Portal. And then Illidan comes out and he's like, alright. And you become a Demon Hunter in Classic. Alright? And here's the thing. If you gotta do it as a Warlock, so you'd be any of the Warlock races in Demon Hunter mode. So that would be like... or undead orc. You know, for Alliance it'd be human, gnome. Oh my god, gnome DH. But that could be cool. You know, you become a DH. If they add in high elves or blood elves, then you can have DHs like that. I think DH is less likely, but I think it'd be cool, especially using tank warlock. Alright. We already see people talking about dwarf shaman, undead paladin. We already seen that, already talked about that. I do think there should be more customizations, and I was thinking you could have a monk unlock quest start in the Barrens with Chen's Keg. And then you find another keg in another zone. And you find these kegs in a couple of these zones. Maybe for Monk, it'd be earlier, right? So Death Knight would be endgame. Demon Hunter would be in patches later. Monk, you start finding these kegs, right? And you're like, found a keg over here, found a keg over here, find a keg over here, find a keg over here. And you're like, what is up with all these kegs? Then the ultimate quest, maybe at like a level 40 area, you can do it. The Wandering Isle shows up, and Chen is like, yo, you want to be a monk? And then your account can make monks. I think that'd be cool. And they have like a classic monk. And then, like I said, if you wanted to add roles, like maybe no mage healer, but now we have monk healer. Alright? You know, monk tank. You can remove one of the tanks you didn't like. You get monk tank. Or just have monk and keep all the other stuff. So I think that'd be cool. Another small thing I would want to talk about. They've already been doing it in SoD, but alt ketchup, undermine reals, and alt ketchup, I think need to be carried forward. I think is such a good thing. Alright? Now, let's get into the big... There's two big features, and then there's two crazy things left. So, dungeons. We already see them adding a new raid. We've seen them add new dungeons. I do want them to add new raids and new dungeons. But how about they add Mythic? So you can get Mythic Wailing Caverns. So at 60, all dungeons open up again. All dungeons open up again. And the loot gets upgraded. If you have a level 60 where every dungeon is open, there is a whole new level of itemization. Is that too much? Maybe. They could almost do the seasonal stuff. I think the seasonal stuff is one of the things that Classic shouldn't have, but we do kind of see it with the phases. And maybe that's one of the issues people have with the phases. But here's the thing. Classic did roll out like that, you know. It wasn't all out. But for most of us, we joined when it was all out. So it did. You were able to just walk up that curve on your own. You know, Molten Core to Blackwing Lair to AQ to next to that. But they could do it. They could have Classic Mythic seasons. So like one season, oh my god, one phase, Wailing Caverns is up, RFC's up. Or they could just have mythic modes of those dungeons. I think they can maybe look into that. I didn't intend for it to be Mythic Plus style or seasonal when I first wrote this down, but I do think the idea of Mythic dungeons in Classic and raids, you know, you see the hard mode, right? We see the hard modes. That's kind of like Mythic. Maybe it shouldn't be as simple as turn on Mythic. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe I do think people like the idea of turning on a hard mode, like in the game, versus just a toggle. So maybe that's it. But they should keep those hard modes, and maybe they should do something with some dungeons. Okay, maybe some dungeons should have a Mythic mode. Alright? Or just have hard mode dungeons. Because, like, Karazhan is a hard dungeon. But imagine if in some phases, other dungeons got hard modes added. Okay? But then again, like I said, that would make it more seasonal. But the next one is seasonal as well. But I do think it'd be cool to add in Mythic dungeons, right? So here's the thing. If they add in a Mythic Wailing Caverns, it would have to have updated loot. But my initial idea for the Mythic raids and the Mythic dungeon is the loot not be better, right? So what they do in SoD is the hard mode bosses just drop more loot, right? So if you do, from what I know, if you do hard mode MC, you get more loot for the level of heat level difficulty. So a 4 Nax, which is like mythic, you get more loot, but it's not better loot. They could do that with mythics. So you're doing mythic Strathhome, you're getting more loot, it's not better loot, and say you complete mythic Strathhome, you get an achievement and a mount. Alright? Or you get a mount. You get a collectible. You know, you get a title. Something like that. I may be mentioning collectibles, more on that later, but I do think they could do something with dungeons, and in my opinion, they should have modern group finder, right? So we have this classic version of group finder and group browser. I kind of wish they would just update to the modern one. I think the modern one would be better. Mine's empty because the server's dead. But I do think a modern one, maybe it'd be cross-server in the new game, in the new version. But I do think a modern group finder would work better than the vintage one. I don't think we should have the queued LFD, LFG, LFR in classic. But modern group finder, I don't think would hurt anybody. It just works better, in my opinion. Next up, PvP. Imagine classic arenas. Think about that. Imagine a classic arena in Orgrimmar, like an arena set in Orgrimmar, an arena in Underground Stormwind. We already know where there is an Underground arena in Stormwind later on. But imagine classic arenas. I think that'd be cool. But again, then you'd have to have seasons, so then there'd be seasonal stuff, but it could all just be cosmetic. You know, or they do PvP set, new PvP sets. You know, each phase, you know, with the raid. So then it, like I said, I'm a retail player, so it does feel more like retail, but it could just be collectibles. Or, like, the arena season be a one-time thing, and it's just classic arenas, just for fun. You know, you don't have to have the seasonal stuff to it. I do think classic PvP and that grind to how you get stuff, I think should be looked at. I don't think the high warlord system is the best way to do it. Some people disagree. It's hard and it's prestigious when you do it, but I don't know if that's how it should be. I think they should take a look at that. And I do think world PvP should be embraced in a Classic Plus, even though I used to be a big world PvPer, especially when I was in Classic and Vanilla. So I haven't really done the Blood event, but I do think they need to take a look at world PvP and maybe do something with that. And so PvP should be expanded, maybe new ranks, you know. Now let's get to the last two things. So I was talking about collectibles, mounts, titles. If we're going to get collectibles, we've already seen the mode select on the PTR. I think we can see classic warbands become a thing. Alright? And I think it'd work a little bit different to how modern warbands work. I feel like your classic warband and your modern warband and even your classic era warband would kind of somewhat be separated and your collection kind of united. But here's the thing about a collection and classic WoW, right? When I level my shaman, get to 40, he gets his mount. I don't want my warrior, when he gets to 40, he get a free mount. Like, modern day collection would dictate you get a free mount, right? That could be a thing. I think some people would like that. Maybe you still gotta train, and that's fine. I still think there should be... Maybe if I level a troll. This is what I was thinking. So I level a troll, I level another troll at 40. That troll gets a mount for free because he can ride raptors. Okay, maybe it works like that. You know, my Tauren gets to 40, he's still got to buy a Kodo. Alright? Maybe when I get to 60, my trolls can ride raptors. They're set. I don't have to pay a mount again. You know, maybe in SoD they cheapen mounts. Maybe they put mounts back at the higher price. but it does work like modern day collection. You know, maybe when I get one of the prestigious mounts, now when I get a level 60, all I gotta do is train, and I do get a free mount. Maybe it's the Baron's mount. I do think updating Classic with modern day collection stuff, I don't want it to share, right? I don't want my retail collection to push a ton of mounts into my Classic. But I think the reverse would be great. You know, you get mounts in Classic. Maybe a person level 60 does all this stuff, has Baron mount, has all this stuff in Classic WoW, wants to play retail. They log into retail. Boom. Whoa, I got all these mounts from my Classic? That's kind of cool. Let me look at all the other new mounts and stuff in retail. Maybe there's stuff to do here. I think this could be a new age for collectors. If stuff earned in Classic could carry over to retail, and this would be the beginning. The Warband Classic. Okay? Imagine a Classic campsite. wouldn't want them to use the Dragonflight one. Why would they use any of the modern day campsites? We're not in Khazar, we're not in Dragonflight, but imagine a Classic campsite. Imagine a Classic campsite that you unlock in Classic, or from playing Classic, and it carries over to retail, so you can use the Classic campsite in retail. And then when you earn one of the new vintage Classic campsites, it carries over to retail. I think it'd be cool. I think Classic campsites could go really hard. And with the Warband, you'd get collections. So we can do we can do mounts. We can get pets. People can buy the cockroaches from the dude and actually have the little small pets. Because I'm going to tell you, in Classic WoW, only the extra people will have a little pet crawling around, because that's an inventory slot. Mounts are inventory slots. If people want horizontal progression, it's collection content. I want to show off this mount. I want to show off this pet. I want to show off this thing. Bag slots are already a bunch of space. Some people collect mounts, you know, it's cool on Classic. I used to hold a lot of mounts before Wrath of Lich King. I had a couple mounts on my rogue in my bag. Collections were such a good upgrade for mounts, you're not carrying them around in your bag. Because here's the thing. It doesn't make sense that you carry a mount around in your bag either. Your bags are full of items and other shit. You stuff a whole cat in there? No. You pull the cat out. It's in your magical storage, in your magical space. You pull the cat out. My mount shows up. Okay? I think modern day mount collection, pet collection, tabs would be great for Classic. And give it a lot more stuff. Titles. Adding titles. We've seen titles in Classic through PvP. We can get more titles in Classic. I think it would be good to add in more titles to Classic and have a little character thing. Maybe make titles in Classic character specific. Certain ones maybe account wide. I do think account wide unlocks for stuff in SoD have been great. So they're already looking to account wide stuff. Also, Warbank, right? I'm on a dead server. Hey, all these horde ain't gonna be doing much, right? Am I gonna get some free transfers? Probably not. But you know, it'd be nice if I could take this 100 gold, put it in my Warbank, and pick it up on my alliance. Like, I think modern day Warbank is great. I can shift some of this stuff off from these guys and, you know, leave this server fine. You know, I'm already leaving it all behind anyways. You know, in Classic, that's kind of just how it went. But I just think a Warbank and stuff in Classic would be nice. It'd be nice. It may go too far in Classic. Some people would probably disagree. Now, this next part, everyone's going to say is too far, but I think this would be cool. So think about this, right? Leveling up in Classic, I've been wearing all these busted pieces. I hit level 60. I start getting these sets. And I'm like, yeah, I like these armor sets, right? And I'm walking around the city. And then I see a shadowy figure, and I'm like, what's it? It's an ethereal. Never seen an ethereal, because this ain't out. This ain't Burning Crusade. I'm like, what's an ethereal doing here? He's like, hey, come here. That armor looks cool on you. He's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. You know, when you get new stuff, you're gonna not have that look. And I'm gonna be like, that's true. What if I told you I could have you keep that look if you wanted? And you're like, what? You go on an intricate quest line at level 60. Okay? Once you have a full set, you have to have one full set of armor unlocked, completely wearing it. That's how this NPC shows up. You do a quest line. I want this quest line to take you all over. Him working you, this ethereal you've never seen, never heard in your life. You don't know what these things are. You're like, this is a mummy. Having me run all over. You do this stuff for me. He's like, good. Okay. You did all this stuff for me? Alright. Now, you have Transmog unlocked. For your account, only for level 60s. Alright? Up until level 60, you look how you look. Once you're level 60, Transmog. Once you get sets, you can start making your character look like your favorite set. Maybe you need to wear mixed match, because you got people in SoD, right? You're wearing mixed match 2, 3 set. You looking like a clown, right? Why not have Transmog? Why not? People inspect you for item level and all this stuff. How you look doesn't dictate what you're like. It used to be, right? When I looked at someone, I'd be like, okay, they're wearing busted armor, don't invite them. I look at someone, they in a full set, invite them. You know, modern day ain't like that. Especially like when you get into SoD. People wearing all sorts of sets. You gotta be like, wait, are they wearing this, that? What does that mean? Which is that? Is that a good piece? I don't know. They're looking at item level. They're looking at IO score. Bring Transmog into the game. You're gonna have people running Blackwing Lair. You're gonna have people running Molten Core, because I want it to work almost like original Modern. So that ethereal NPC, you now put it. He's void storage in a way. You put armor into him, it locks that armor. You can't use that armor, but you get it as Transmog. So like as you finish up using Valor, you put your Valor set in there and you can use it as Transmog. Only your armor type, we still keep it the armor type rules, and most of OG classic stuff is class specific. You know, are you going to get people rolling for Transmog? Well, you know what? If it's modern rolls, that's fine. And they would have to have unlocked it first. You only get that greed Transmog roll once you unlocked it. So, I think classic Transmog being an unlock, 60 exclusive, just so you can look like the tier you want to look like and not be in mix and match tier, especially with how SoD has it, I think would go really good. Now that's it. I've been going on long enough. This video has been a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I know I said 10 things, but that was a lot more than 10 because they were expansive. But that's what I would like to see in a Classic Plus. All that stuff I think would go really hard. Let me know what y'all think you'd want to see. Would that make you play a Classic Plus, a SoD 2? Let me know. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.